Tecnifibre TFight 315 16x19 string pattern endorsed by Chris Eubanks. Who's it for? Is the stiffness really that high? Can a foam really save us? Grab your popcorn, let's go. Okay, that was an intro. TFight is the most popular line from Tecnifibre's catalog. It's a very modern design with a classic hint. TFight 315 is kinda a mix between Yonex Ezone 98, Head Radical Pro and probably Wilson Pro Staff 97. For quite some time I thought that Ezone 98 will be my pick for the tournament, but after testing it next to each other, the clear winner was the TFight 315. My sparring partner liked it more as well, so it was a pretty clean win. The main reason and difference between those two is that the TFight 315 has a more consistent response. It's closer to those more traditional frames, while Ezone is a more modern solution. What I mean is that Ezone is easier to use, it's lighter, but the stability is still very good for its weight. Game is supposedly faster on the tour, so I think Ezone is the answer for the next gen players. It has pretty much everything you would need from a racket, even in stock form. But for some reason, the response was often surprising me. One ball goes in, another goes to the net, I try to adjust, and then ball goes out. I feel like it's very sensitive to different swing paths and different swing speeds, so it's very hard to learn the racket. TFight 315 is more tempered, so it takes well different play styles and swing speeds. With Ezone, I was not sure if I have to be more aggressive or more stable because nothing seemed to decrease the amount of unforced errors. And I am a type of player that gives nothing for free. I can accept a trade of no winners during a match if at the same time I will have no unforced errors. I'm not sure if that's the correct way of thinking, but this philosophy gave me most of my trophies. I am more solid. Whenever I decide to counter-attack, I never expect a winner, always ready to keep playing. I think the biggest trap for the players with aggressive playstyle is that they expect to be instantly rewarded. They're often expecting a winner and instead get a counter-attack being unprepared. They end up losing to the point or the rally is restarted. Being aggressive, at least in my head, is about being more constructive. It's a combination of shots rather than one specific winner. If I don't get the opportunity to finish the point, I am kinda not allowed to seek winners. Otherwise, I might get frustrated too easy, not to mention that trying to hit a winner from a ball that is not right might cost you too much energy in total during a match, while the other guy is basically chilling. Obviously, there is another side of the coin that over time you might shift your perspective and be too defensive. You might struggle to recognize which ball is in fact the one to attack. Maybe it's not that much about recognizing, but converting and the percentage of conversion rate per decision. And in order to increase the conversion, you must start anticipating more towards this final opportunity. The biggest problem at my level is that more players around me are actually counter-attackers, so it feels like every aggressive attempt turns to be an invitation for their aggressive response. If I don't finish the point, I am in trouble and I end up running even more. So that's how I found myself in this limbo. Being aggressive cost me more energy, and protecting the counterattack from those guys cost me also more energy, so it started to feel that the trade is not worth it. I invested more in patience and shots variety. My goal is to improve ball placement and court positioning rather than searching for a power solution. at the same time I must use my weapons. Let's see how it will go after my racket search is done. But back to the rackets, I felt like with the Ezone my perspective and decision making is not aligned with the things that Ezone is offering. And TFight 315 was closer to my play style. I actually think now that TFight 315 might be something like a head extreme tour, except that the TFight is a more solid option, but with slightly less feel. Yes, let's discuss feel now. The stiffness of 69 can be a red flag for many players, and it would be for me as well if it wasn't for a fact that TFight line is foam filled. And let me tell you that with the correct string selection and tension, it felt pretty much like an average 64 stiffness racket. I even gave it to a Yonex Percept 97 user and he didn't report any comfort issues. So again, foam filled rackets are crazy good in increasing the comfort and feel. However, there is one issue I experienced with the TFight 315. The sweet spot felt rather small, smaller than I experienced with some 95 square inches rackets. I suspect that somehow associated with the stiffness. It's like whenever I hit slightly off, the stiffness of the racket kicks in, giving me the sensation of a mishit, and it's not exactly harsh or uncomfortable. It's the drop of performance that I don't like. The pocketing outside the sweet spot is worse, and the sense of forgiveness limited. Dropping tension and adding some mass to the racket helped, but it was still something a bit problematic. I was expecting a bit more help from such stiff racket, but it turned out to be a very control-oriented design, with a tight spin and launch angle lower than from other 16-19 string patterns, which is actually quite good for my game and what I want, but at the same time, what am I getting in return for using a stiffer racket, and is it enough to let go the other softer options from the market? Hitting the sweet spot was rewarding me with amazing spin potential and control, with still more power than I get from frames like TF40, Prestige Pro and Percept 97. So it's a balancing game. I can get more power and spin from the TFight 315, but I must be able to hit cleaner than with other selected control-oriented rackets. It's not launching like a bubble frames. The response, I would say, is kinda somewhere in between Radical MP and Extreme Tour. Maybe Head Boom Pro could be the direct comparison, but Boom Pro is a bit more muted, kinda like Yonex Vcore. TFight 315 feels a bit harder, but with no vibrations at the contact. It's more stable in stock form. The Swingweight is pretty much perfect at 325. I think it's the middle ground for many players. Hype level. Millman and Eubanks are maybe not the most popular players or inspiring, but the TFight line in general is the strongest point of Tecnifiber's catalog. If someone prefers the 16x19 rackets with more traditional wave distribution, then TFight 315 is an obvious first place to visit. I like it more than the TFight 300 and maybe Tempo IGA signature racket, but at the same time I feel like those lighter, heavier frames are designed slightly better by Tecnifibre, especially with the sweet spot location and its size. Special trait. So the special trait of TFight 315 is that it's a traditional frame, think head Prestige, Tecnifibre TF40, with a slightly hotter response towards Ezone or Radical. For comparison, my Angel TC95 at higher tensions was still more responsive than the TFight 315. That's why I put the TFight 315 in the category of traditional control-oriented rackets for players with longer takebacks and more traditional technique. At the same time, it is responsive enough to be used also by the next-gen players with more rapid strokes. TFight 315 can be used by a very wide group of players and responds very well to different playstyles. Secondary trait would be feel, because the racket is foam filled and it's increasing the feel quite a lot. Even with a stiffness of 69, it was not uncomfortable. It's solid and stable. The feel of the racket in hands is very complete, no empty hollow spots. Putting like 2 grams at 12 completed the frame even more, and it was my favorite setup for the performance. Place for improvement. I think bigger sweet spot would make this frame a complete masterpiece. The feel and the comfort of the TFight 315 is very good. Wave distribution could be improved. Maybe a slightly heavier balance would enable Tecnifibre to keep all the positives of the TFight 315 while increasing the size of the sweet spot. Or maybe stiffness has something to do with it, but again, comfort-wise, it was all good, especially with Razor Code 125. If you want even more comfort, you can try a hybrid of Miami Big Spin Tour Hex strings. I think it could complement the racket really well. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe as it helps me grow. See you soon, and we'll see which racket will go to the next round.